I mean, I did a study recently and I took a look at the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, food basket back in 1913, 1971, and in 2024, September, I think was the last time I did it. And the cost of food, don't hold me exactly to this because obviously I don't have this data right in front of me, but if you want it, I'll send it to you. But back in the rise in that same basket was something like 2,500%. The rise in the manipulated spot price of silver was something like 2,900%. So silver maintains your ability to buy the same thing over time, even in this manipulated market. Spot gold, it was up over 12,000% in that same time period. So not only does gold maintain your ability to buy the same goods and services, it also puts you in a position to have that wealth transfer benefit you. Because what you're really doing with gold and silver is you are holding your purchasing power intact. Because right now what you have is you have a severely undervalued gold to a severely overvalued everything else market. So stocks, bonds, real estate, take your pick. It doesn't matter, right? Severely overvalued. That's going to flip-flop. Well, historically, because I've done there's over 4,800 times this has happened. So there's lots of data, right? Mm-hmm. So historically, 25 ounces of gold would buy you a city block, buildings and all during hyperinflationary events. Governments must go through hyperinflation in order to go into this new currency, because what I've not yet really been able to fully figure out, there's still lots of things that are being floated around, is what mechanism will they exactly use, meaning central banks, to justify creating this. We know right now that it's created from debt, and they could still do that, which means you got to get rid of all that old debt. That's what the hyperinflation is about. It's to repay that debt with dollars that have zero value. And so, but if you're sitting there with gold money that holds its purchasing power, when this flip-flop occurs, guess what? You're in the right place at the right time with the right asset so that you can buy then undervalued income producing assets. And we'll have a chance to see who is going to survive, what corporations are going to survive, because corporations followed government. They're sitting on so many debts. And remember how we've talked about in the past those zombie corporations, which are corporations that have not earned enough to pay all the interest on the debt that they carry, let alone touch any of the principal. And so what the banks were doing, they're not doing it as much anymore. So we've got the rise of the zombies that we're contending with as well. But what they were doing, because the banks didn't want to show the losses on their books, is they were lending these corporations enough money to pay all of that interest, which just means they're compounding interest, which guess what? That's what all the governments are doing. They're not making enough money to pay all the interest on the debt. I mean, deficit spending, right? You're spending money you don't have. So any of that interest, think about your credit cards. If you don't pay at least all the interest, forget the principal, then what happens to that interest? It goes into the principal, and now you're paying interest on that interest. And you are compounding that interest. You're never getting out of debt, ever. So will it happen? 100%. I'll go a gazillion percent. I would bet everything and anything that it will, because it is happening and it has to happen. The system must reset. There is no purchasing power left in this. The only thing that's holding it together is the public confidence. And I think that by June of this year, the more rapid inflation will become even more apparent. And I've been tracking that confidence level, and so does the government, right? Consumer confidence, inflation expectations, all of these kinds of things. It's a con game. So they have to maintain your confidence, and they also have to keep getting new money, right?
And they also have to keep people from buying gold. And so you're seeing record prices every day. I mean, we're up an unprecedented, not entirely unprecedented. I mean, it happened in the 70s, I guess, but 50% gold in a year. And so if people are starting to buy it, then the price goes up, and then it kind of accelerates the unraveling. And if we're entering a risk off environment, which I think we were probably in a long time ago, it's just been artificially propped up.
Right.
Even in the worst case scenario, you're retaining your wealth. But in the best case scenario, like you're saying, there might be this wealth transfer situation where those who hold the gold ultimately will be rewarded, and silver, in terms of having the ability to acquire assets at basically pennies on the dollar, literally. That they're not blowing this up in the media is a sign that they don't want people to acknowledge this, because this would quicken the unraveling.
You said a couple things I'd like to touch on. So imagine here is this Bitcoin,
Yeah.
which is really this, right? It's not real, but okay, that looks like gold. Can you imagine how much money would have gone into gold? This came out in January of 2009. Quantitative easing, so interest rates at zero and just massive amounts of money printing, started in March of 2009. And other than speculators, most of the people that are involved in cryptocurrencies are trying to go around the system. Though how anybody can think any of that stuff is around the system is frankly beyond me.
Mhm.
But how much would have gone into gold had they not come out with Bitcoin? That's why I'm saying that Bitcoin is a Trojan horse. And they've been moving us in this direction since the 50s, when they gave us credit cards, right? That's really when this move started. It happens slowly at first. So, when you look at it and read the NSA white paper on how to create a mint. NSA is a government agency. Maybe they're still around, maybe they're not today. I don't know. Anything can happen right now. But you stop and you think about that, and you realize whose best interest is this in? And you really have to step back and ask that question. When you own physical gold and physical silver, then you have become your own central bank. You are securing your freedom, which is I've realized that this is really what I'm fighting for. I'm on the Sound Money Movement Advisory Board, which is a global movement to get sound money, so physical gold and silver, back into the monetary system again. If I have a seat at the table, I'm going to absolutely demand that it be convertible. Because if it's not, it doesn't mean anything, like we just saw in Zimbabwe. It's garbage, right? And I don't care if I turn in this and I'm able to pull this out. This gives the public back their power. And to be honest with you, Nate, I think that this is the best opportunity that I have really ever seen to have that back. And when I see these articles on the gold revaluation account, on the confiscation, I've been starting to read articles on confiscation. I'm just doing a whole series on it. That just started going out because people don't realize they change names like inflation, taxation, royalties. Those are all forms of confiscation. They just give them different names so that people don't realize that that's actually what's happening. But I believe in my heart of hearts and my bones of bones that this is our best opportunity to get sound money back in the system again. And that is my fight. And I'm going to Miami to work on legislation. I'm going to be speaking with the Speaker of the House on educating them what sound money is, because governments, people don't know what sound money is. It's been taught out of us, and we need to reteach people about it so that they can take their power back and say, why would I work for debt that is constantly losing value? How does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, everything. Yeah. If you think about it, if you were to have that money in your bank and you just, even a savings account, I mean, forget it nowadays, but it's constantly losing its purchasing power. And the same thing, of course, occurs with taxation. You can buy a house and own it, but if you don't pay taxes on it for a few years, well, the government's going to basically expropriate it for themselves. And so this is where, that's one of those things. Like I'm amazed it's even legal, to be honest, to buy gold. I'm amazed that they re-legalized it at all, considering what it enables a person to do. And yeah, I'm with you 100%. I mean, we can't say with certainty who this Satoshi character was, but it seems to, looking at the timing of it all, it would be a masterful 4D chess move for them to put something out that was decentralized and, empowering and better than gold, and the price just keeps going up. And
that's how you do it. You think about the Roaring '20s, right? When they legalized the Federal Reserve, it used to be, this is a $1. This is a $1 gold piece. Can you see how teeny weeny tiny it is, right? So this used to back $1, either a silver dollar or a silver certificate, which I have in this mess somewhere. Anyway, so it backed $1. All three of those things were in circulation at the same time. When they legalized the Federal Reserve, now they legalized that for every this is a 20th of an ounce, for every 20th of an ounce, and now back $2.40. And so they printed a ton of new money, flooded the system with it. And what did you get? You got the Roaring '20s, right? People have heard about the Roaring '20s because there was so much cash floating around. In the '80s, when we transitioned onto a full debt-based system, anybody here remember the greedy '80s? Greed was good, Gordon Gekko. Well, that was the transition from at least a quasi-gold-backed system into a pure debt-based system. And so now they're transitioning us into a digital system. And so they look at the markets that are built up around this, right? I mean, I have so many people that try and talk me into how great Bitcoin is. And my question always is, tell me what its functionality is. Tell me what its functionality is. I can see value, right? But the value that they come up with is that you can put it on a little zip drive and take it anywhere in the world, which is valuable. But I can buy an $8 million 1 ounce coin and put it in my pocket and travel around the world with it and have that same purchasing power. But this is used in every single sector of the global economy. This crap, one place. That's it.